Hello everyone, welcome to the course Disability Studies in India, Historical, Social and Cultural Perspectives. So, in this module, we are going to talk about subjectivity. Why I am putting a lot of emphasis on subjectivity? Let me tell you this. Because the entire Western philosophy has been exploring the notion of subjectivity, starting from Plato, Descartes, Spinoza, Heidegger, even the modern philosopher, if you put Rancière or whatever name you put it. They all have discussed in one way or other about the subjectivity, right. Cultural theorist, let us say Foucault, Stuart Hall, obviously Butler and all we have already discussed. They all have given extensive lecture on subjectivity, written a book on subjectivity. Even Saussure, like after the Saussure came, he wrote a book called Cours de General Linguistics. After he wrote the book, the entire dynamics of thinking about the subject got changed. So, initially before the Saussure came into the picture, people were thinking that humans are in the center. It is a human who is in the center. But Descartes proved that that is not true. You remember I was talking about language construct, not only reflect. So, it is a language that produces the subjectivity of a human being. Now, you will talk about agency and all, I will come to that, right. But first, let us go slow. So, when we talk about subjectivity, we have to understand how things are folded, how you look at yourself. How you look at yourself, let us say for example, you are a subject, right. You are a subject. For what I mean by you are a subject? You are subjected to, right. You are subjected to your culture, religion, politics, society, right. As a, like what is your identity, let us say for example, if I ask, you will say my identity is a student. What does it mean student? Which means that you are subjected to follow the decision, behavior as society is, as an educational institution expect from you. So, here you see that when you say you are a student, I am immediately presuming that you should study, you should be a good student, you should get good grades, you should be disciplined. How does it come from? That identity you have assigned yourself as a student identity, which is determined by the institutions. You got this clear? Let us say for example, if I ask you who are you, you will say I am a father. What is this? Father is an identity given to you because you have to take care of your family, children. So, you are subjected to the family. So, when you say subject, which simply means you are subjected to, right, as a verb as well as a noun, both, we will talk about it. Subjectivity is coming from there, from the subject, subjectivity comes. Let us say for example, before that, we used to think that we control ourselves. It is a human who control ourselves, right, we can control. But later on Locke comes and he says that you cannot control yourself, unconscious structure controls you. You cannot repress your instinct that will take it let out, from your unconsciousness, like dreams, right. You try to repress that, it emerges from there, and there are other ways through which the repressed desire emerges, comes out, right. So, that is why I have put this lecture's title as Subjectivity, a Philosophical Exploration, right. So, here you see I am not talking about disability at all, I am not touching it upon. Then what I am doing? I am doing simply to explore what is subjectivity, simple, nothing else. Why? Once I have made clear what subjectivity is, you can immediately relate with disability, right. Obviously, the next lecture will be on subjectivity and disability, but this lecture I am going to talk mainly on what subjectivity is all about. All right. So, let us look at the first slide. Subjectivity is a fundamental concept in philosophy, psychology and cultural studies, right. That is I was talking to you, right. Okay. In philosophy, in psychology and also in culture studies, right. It is a fundamental concept that revolves around the nature of personal perspectives, right. That is what I was trying to tell you. Okay. How do you look at yourself, experiences and inner consciousness. At its core, subjectivity underscores the unique way people perceive, interpret and engage with reality, are shaped by their inner thought, emotions, memories and identities. Subjectivity is the condition of being a subject. That is what I am right. The condition is the condition of being a subject, a self-conscious, perceiving entity whose experiences and inner states affect the way they see and relate to the world. Subjectivity is personal and internal, often contrasted with objectivity, which is external, universal standpoint and often sought in scientific inquiry. So, we have a famous French philosopher René Descartes, who famously expressed the foundational aspect of subjectivity with his proposition, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. So, Descartes highlights that the self or subjective experience is the indubitable basis, right. Descartes highlighted that the self or subjective experience is the indubitable basis for knowledge, as our perception of existence arises through our consciousness, right. This is a very important idea that I am discussing, all right. Subjectivity is the condition of being a subject, I am trying to tell you, right. I am trying to explain you self-conscious, a self-conscious perceiving identity whose experience and inner states affect the way you see and relate to the world, right. You see and relate to the world. So, as a subjectivity of a disabled people, how it would be? How they see themselves and how they relate to the world. So, for example, you may say world is so fair to me, or world is so nice, world is beautiful, what a nice experience on walking on the lanes of Paris or the street of the Paris, right. What a beautiful river it is, right. You should enjoy the beauty of a river, right. That is the way you relate to the world. You find the world is so just, so beautiful, so nice. Let me give you an example now. There is a boy who is hungry, who has not eaten the food past many days. Do you think he would be able to enjoy the beauty of the lake? Obviously not. So, your existence, right, the beauty of the lake is not about the lake's beauty, it is how you perceive it, how you look at it. The beauty is not on the lake, it is not like lake is beautiful, it is about depends the person who is watching it, that is a subjectivity. So, before we enter into this kind of discussion, people have been talking about it, there is a objectivity, exterior reality, right, exterior reality. So, there is an objective fact produced on a particular person, on particular people, on particular painting, on particular society, on particular life, whatever you say. But as I told you, subjectivity is the condition of being a subject, a self-conscious perceiving entity whose experience and inner states affect the way you see and relate to the world. How do you relate to the world? So, what Descartes is doing, what Western philosophers have been doing, they wanted to bring an objective phenomena about the society. Okay, that is how it is, and they want even you to experience in the same way. They want even you to relate in the same way, the way they relate. But that's not possible, right? How you perceive and interpret and engage with reality. It's also shaped by your inner thought, emotions and memories, right, and identities. Like if you have some bad memories, you cannot appreciate. Let's say for example, you go to London and your passport is stolen, God forbids, right? Will you be able to appreciate the beauty of London? Obviously not, right? It's like the problem is that your memories, you don't have a good memories about that place. You will even hate the person who is going to appreciate. That was not the case before. That thinking, that pattern of thinking changed after cultural studies scholars started talking about it. That's what the role of subjectivity is. You got the idea now, right? Otherwise, we used to see the world, we used to relate with the world from someone else's perspective. And that perspective used to be our perspectives. And that is why you remember in the previous lecture I said, you need to listen the stories of people with disabilities. You need to listen the stories not from others' mouth, from the mouth of the people itself. Why is it so that even in today I can tell you, you will not find corpus of literature produced by writers who are disabled or people who are disabled, let's say. Why is it so? Think, these are the fundamental question that I am asking, right? Our perception arises through our consciousness. I mean, let me tell you something very interesting. There is a Karl Marx who is a very famous philosopher, right? He has written a book, Capital, he has written a book, Communist Manifesto, right? So before that, what used to happen? Before Marx and all that, like Descartes-like people and all that, what they are saying that it's my mind that governs what I think, what society is all about. Look at the shift that I am going to take. Just give me 30 seconds, I will explain this point so clear to you. So before that, we used to think that it is our mind that construct the reality, right? I mean, people used to blame that you are not able to do something good because you don't have determination, self-determination, so on and so forth, right? So which means that before Karl Marx and Foucault-like people, it was told to us that your thinking is governed from your mind, right? Your mind makes you think, your existence, right? After Marx, Karl Marx is saying, let me know your economic condition. I can tell you what you think, right? I don't have to go into your mind, just tell me your economic condition, I can tell you what you think. He changed the entire way people used to perceive reality. So reality is not the perception of some objective facts, but rather subjective facts. How do you think about it? How you perceive? What is your economic condition? Where you come from? What is your culture? Right. So this is a shift that happens, and that's why I said this chapter is going to be very extremely significant to analyze literature, films, so on and so forth. All right. So what Marx is saying, you tell me what you think, what is in your mind, I can tell you what you are thinking. So reality, it's a material condition that construct your thinking. Thinking does not construct, right? It's not your thinking that construct the condition, but condition, what condition you are in, that construct your existence, all right? So let's go to the next slide, please. So from an epistemological standpoint, subjectivity plays a crucial role in how people acquire interpret and structure knowledge. That's a very, very important, right. Knowledge is not merely an objective accumulation of facts. It is also shaped by personal biases, cultural backgrounds and individual experiences. Philosopher Immanuel Kant, right. I told you that everyone is dyslexia. Kant, I am going to talk. Descartes, I have already talked, and these two are important philosophers from the West. Descartes is from France, Kant is from Germany, right. So, Kant asserted that human mind does not passively receive information from the external world, but actively shapes it. Kant's transcendental idealism argues that we can only know things as they appear to us, filtered through our mental framework, rather than as they objectively are. This means that reality as we know it is always influenced by subjective perceptions, all right. So, before I go to the next slide, let me explain to you this first. Two things, see, as I am telling you, this chapter is little bit complex, right. I already talked about Descartes. Now, I am going to talk about Kant. Obviously, see, I cannot talk in detail about transcendental idealism, because once I talk, the entire chapter will get over in like entire lecture, not 1, 2, 3 lecture will get over in just one important concept, that is Kant is giving. But what is important about Immanuel Kant is that, right, is he is giving also emphasis to the mind, right, and obviously his way to think about the reality is different, right. So, when you are reading, like let me give you suggestions, when you are reading Kant, like make sure that you give a lot of time to read him, because he is talking about transcendental idealism. He is still trying to restore the objectivity, right. Let me look at the next slide, please. So, in the next slide, you see the phenomenological approach that was championed by Edmund Husserl. This is a third philosopher. He dwells deeper into subjectivity by focusing on lived experiences. Phenomenology asserts that experience is both subjective and intentional. I would suggest to you that please read phenomenology in detail, not only Edmund Husserl. Obviously, you should start with Husserl, but go to Heidegger and then also Ponti, right. There are many more, but in fact, Hegel is also very important, right. So, to understand Hegel and Heidegger's connection, and then Edmund Husserl is the one who started phenomenology. So, phenomenology asserts that experience is both subjective and intentional. It is always about something and shaped by the consciousness of the experiencer. Husserl's phenomenology laid the groundwork for existentialism, right. I am sure that you must be reading about Martin Esslin in Theatre of Absurd in literature, right. So, Husserl's phenomenology laid the groundwork of existentialism with the philosopher like Jean-Paul Sartre, he is a French one, and Martin Heidegger, right. I just was talking about him, emphasizing that subjectivity is central to human existence. For Sartre, subjectivity and freedom are intertwined, as people are free to shape their own identities and meanings rather than being bound to objective truth imposed upon them. So, subjectivity is deeply influenced by social and cultural factors, which play a role in shaping individual identities, beliefs and values. Social constructivism argue that knowledge and therefore reality is constructed by social interaction. So, we have a theorist like Michel Foucault, who is saying that societal institutions and discourses, they influence people's perception of reality, imposing certain values and norms that shape subjective experience. For example, we have gender norms, cultural rituals, language can influence how people perceive their own identities and experiences, creating a subjective lens influenced by cultural context. All right. So, before I jump on postmodernism, right, and I think about Derrida and Baudrillard and all people, we have a phenomenological approach. Let me give you an example, right. If I ask you what is the, like if I ask you like how does the, like what is the red color, right, this is objective fact, and you can see, you can show to me that this is a red color, right, and if I say no, this is a black, you will not believe it, no, this is not true, right, and this is a knowledge is produced. I am just giving a simple example, then I will take it to the complex level. So, you will say that this light is red color, do not fight unnecessarily on this, because it is a red, it is objective fact, it is knowledge, it is a truth, you can ask anyone, right. But if suppose I change the scenario, right, and if I put some other color in the background, then how your shirt will look like, right. Your shirt's color will look like differently. It is not the same color that you experienced a couple of minutes before. So, what do you find here? It's not that the shirt which is in color that shapes the reality of the shirt, but rather what are the external factors, they are responsible for changing the objective facts of producing the knowledge, depends how you are looking at it. You remember I was giving a very clear understanding that if I ask you pain, you will say this is a pain and all that, right, you will talk about it. But if I ask from a women's perspective who have given birth to babies, the pain will take a different meaning altogether, right. So, social interaction, like how you interact, let us say for example, when you understand, right, how external factors also influence reality, knowledge, truth even, right. The truth is not universal, right? It is not that the truth produced in one particular place is true to everywhere. That is a old assumptions, that is not true. Let us say for example, I mean let me tell you, like I am very love to talk about the concept of time. So, whenever I get the opportunity to explain with the concept of time, I say this. If suppose I ask you, suppose a person who has just visited Delhi, right, not more than that, from Banaras to Delhi, he has not gone to other distance and other places, right, and he has gone to other villages, other areas and all. So, if I ask where is he, how far Delhi is, he will say it is very far. Why? Because he went to Delhi on foot, right, he did not take a flight or a car. The only distance he has covered is 500 or 600 kilometers, right. But if suppose a person who has gone to US and obviously he has visited Delhi and all, and then he asks which place have you visited most, like where is the Delhi, Delhi is very far, he said no, Delhi is not very far, it is just matter of a 1 hour distance, because he has travelled through the flight and he has covered the distance in just 1 hour. So, for him, so the point is subjectivity is deeply influenced by social and cultural factors, right. That plays a very important role in shaping individuals' identities, beliefs and values, all right. So, read Edmund Husserl and Heidegger, because they are very influential in shaping the understanding or subjectivity's notion, all right. Let us go to the next slide please. So, postmodern thinkers like Jacques Derrida and Jean Baudrillard, they argue that reality itself is a fragmented. Now, you see that is where I was heading to, right, that is where I was heading to. Reality itself is a fragmented and mediated by subjective perception and representations, right. Making any claim to an objective reality, this was gone, this objective reality was gone now, there is nothing called objective as such, no reality is objective, tenuous. Baudrillard's notion of hyperreality, you see how many philosophers are coming just to talk about subjectivity, right. Baudrillard, Jean Baudrillard, the French philosopher. Notion of hyperreality suggests that in contemporary society, mediated images, I am not going to talk in detail, but because again I told you, right, these people will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to explain. So, mediated images and sign can create a reality more influential than objective reality itself, right. This notion becomes evident in the way media and digital platform shape individual and collective subjective experience today, presenting distorted version of reality that shape public opinion, identity and desire. I mean, by sitting in this room, if I am given the certain instruments, I can influence your desire, I can motivate your opinion, I can motivate your decision, I can influence your decision and motivate you to do something. I can make a place look better than what it is. So, where is the reality? We all are playing with the images. Reality has gone very far. I am not saying there is nothing reality, but how you get to know the reality? You get to know the reality from someone's perspectives, right? Let us say for the cameraman, right. What does cameraman do? He focuses what he wants to catch, and that is what showed to you. What about the other things which are available there, and you are not able to see this? You are not able to find this out, right. So, after we entered into the post-modern society, things have become very complex and very different. That is why you read Marcel Mauss, right. You read these scholars Adorno, right. You read obviously Baudrillard I am referring to, right. There are more philosophers who have talked extensively about that how reality is constructed through the images, right. There is a famous article by Walter Benjamin, right, and Walter Benjamin it's actually a very short book. It's like he is talking about the art in the age of mechanical reproduction, right, and talking about what does photography do, what it has done to us, right. So, we all are busy in producing our virtual image, which is looks more real to the people than you. You are real, but people identify you from your blogs, from your WhatsApp, from your Facebooks and all that. And they say, oh, you are not looking nice or something. However, you are the one who is real. But since it is being mediated, your reality is mediated by images, multiple images, and that construct reality about you, right. So, you remember that is why it is important to speak about yourself. You are being known to the world now. You have not spoken anything, but people are knowing to you through the images, through the words, through the description given on your page. All right, let us go to the next slide now. So, if you go to the next slide, we see subjectivity poses a critical challenge in ethics, particularly when considering moral relativism and universalism. If subjectivity shapes personal values, how can society establish universal ethical principles? This question is very central to the moral philosophy. Existentialists like Sartre argue that each person must define their own values. I wish I could teach you to the length about Sartre, but some other time we will talk about it. But please you read it. Own values and moral framework based on personal freedom and responsibility, thus making ethics inherently subjective. Kant argue for universal ethical principle grounded in rationality, suggesting that subjective experience perspectives are valuable. They should be tempered by objective reasoning to ensure fairness and justice. Subjectivity also plays a significant role in empathy and ethical behavior. Our ability to understand others' experience and feeling is a subjective process that can foster compassion and moral sensitivity in an increasingly globalized world, recognizing and valuing diverse subjective experience that can enhance cross-cultural understanding and that lead to more inclusive and empathetic approach to social issues. All right. So, to conclude my lecture, I mean obviously, I will take to the another length the subjectivity in the next lecture in relation to people with disability, but for time being I would suggest you that please read Sartre, which is extremely influential, please read Baudrillard, please read Derrida, and I mean just try to read more on subjectivity so that next lecture will be fruitful to you, right. So, these are the just guideline, the framework which I have given to you so that you can understand how subjectivity is constructed, what are the factors that are responsible to construct your subjectivity, and also the purpose of producing this lecture is talking about this lecture is to talk about the shift, right, because that would help when I will talk about disability and subjectivity. All right. So, with this I would like to end my lecture. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Stay tuned for the next lecture, please. Thank you so much.